Shanila, good morning to you. Always a pleasure. This is an incredible amount of money we're talking about, remembering, of course, the kind of budgets that SAPS does have. Critics are saying that the SAPS are getting too much money, 1.6 billion rand, and close to 400 million rand of that has gone missing or unaccounted for. It's irregular.
Gareth, you know, it's worrying that every morning we wake up and there is this type of news out there when we know that this country has one of the highest crime rates in the world. We know that women and children feel unsafe living in this country, and yet, you know, we are constantly either being told about corruption or we're being told about irregular expenditure. And what that all points to, first of all, is that, you know, when we're talking about irregular expenditure, that the systems that are in place are not working, that there are, you know, the policies and procedures that are supposed to be adhered to are not being adhered to, which means that something is badly wrong in there. And it's just unacceptable. You know, every cent lost means that somebody's human rights are not being adhered to. And, you know, we rely on the SAPS to keep this country safe. And, you know, if this is what's going to be happening there, then, you know, it just becomes more and more difficult to see crime being tackled and to see this country being eventually a safe place for women and children.
Shanila, for those who haven't read this report, does it allude in any way as to where these material losses were? I know there was the amount in place for PPE, but are we talking PPE specific for these losses, or was it perhaps more about the day-to-day running of the SAPS?
Well, it was, you know, if you read the report, it is it's a very detailed report, by the way, and, you know, the Daily Maverick did a very good job of that. But, you know, basically what it is that the excuse that's being used is that COVID came and everybody went into a state of panic, and that, you know, they then went out and rushed off and got these PPEs. But as you dig deeper into the article, you realize that, you know, a lot of the tenders, for example, there is an 11 million tender or order that was given verbally. There is no paperwork behind that. 11 million rand. You just pick up the phone and say to somebody, listen, get me PPE for 11 million rand, and there's no paperwork to back that up. And so to be honest, you know, I feel like, you know, there's probably more to the story that we'll get to hear about. At the moment, it's being positioned as irregular expenditure, and there are a lot of different service providers that are being named in this report that basically did not follow process, did not follow procedure in getting these tenders. And of course, you know, we cannot keep on hiding behind the fact that COVID hit us and we had no idea, because every organization or every entity is supposed to have policies and procedures, even in a crisis. And you would expect that the police, Saps, would be in crisis often. I mean, COVID can't be the biggest crisis that they have experienced.
No, I'm certainly sure it's not. Shanila, just before I say goodbye to you, I mean, where do we even begin trying to get on top of this? When we're talking this amount of money within the SAPS, that's been lost and that's unaccounted for, you would think the finance minister, but you'd also think the police minister, but you'd also possibly think as far as the president. What would Amnesty International like to see out of this? Some would suggest the rolling of heads, but that's also not going to help, because you destabilize the leadership of the SAPS. But in the last minute I have with you, what would you like as Amnesty International here?
Look, we feel that there's got to be a deeper investigation into this. You know, where did that money go? Where did those products go? What happened? So that people understand. At the moment, it's labeled as irregular expenditure. The police, I notice, have come out and slammed the Daily Maverick for not giving them an opportunity to respond. But yeah, please respond now. Let the public know what the situation is. And what we'd like to see is accountability being taken at every level, whether it's with the Minister of Health and what is going on there, or whether it's with Saps. And, you know, Gareth, we can't hide behind this thing that it'll destabilize leadership. We don't want leadership that is not going to lead us into a safer place. We'd rather destabilize that leadership than have this consistent erosion of entities and government departments that are not serving the public and are not upholding their human rights. So what we'd like to see is accountability, and we'd like to see a response really, from the top levels as to what they're going to do about this.
I've been very quiet thus far since this report came out, so hopefully we'll be getting a response soon. If not, I can assure you ENCA will be chasing for answers as well. Always a pleasure. Amnesty International South Africa Executive Director Shanila Mohammed joining me here on the South African Morning.